Okay gamers, here we are, we've got the Cordyceps Hive Mind, and before we start we're going to do a quick recap. I did cover this in my update video, the version 12 update video, but we're just going to cover it again, the basics of Cordyceps. We're going to talk about the details and the mechanics and the lore behind this god, and then we'll move on to the actual gameplay and I'll show you some things in game that happen and some things that I found interesting. So without further ado, let's jump in. Let's have a look at this. A vast hive mind, each spore of this fungal entity is linked together into a single consciousness. It exists parasitically, infecting and mutating creatures, taking control of their nervous systems and driving them towards its own goals or paralysing them for consumption by its enslaved victims. Fungal spores spread by the wind, often from nightmarish fungal stalks growing from former victims' bodies. So it's kind of Last of Us meets Lovecraft meets I'm trying to think of an insecty type. Well, you know, the real world, I guess. Basically, like fantasy, right? Fantasy tropes, big insects with horrible fungus infection. Are really, really cool. And I'm glad it's not like a thing. It's like this hive mind creature, which is dope. I like that. It's something different from what we have in the base game gods, at least. The first stage is infection of individuals, agents, heroes, rulers, and then spread it to others, as to the human populations. The second stage involves drones carrying away the paralysed population of undefended villages back to their hives to be devoured. The last stage involves these hives disgorging swarms of lethal predatory mutated insects to destroy entire kingdoms. Yeah, so it's interesting. And I played Cordyceps once, so take this with a pinch of salt at this stage, but it's focus. It does lean into almost like a military. It's classic, really. You start off sneaky. Then you start doing some shenanigans. You're trying to take people. Then you spread your kind of your tendrils. In this case, the infection, right? And then it becomes like a military conquest. Like you use the infection to generate armies to destroy humanity. That's the goal, right, of this in a way. So it's an interesting one. You don't get points for them being infected like you do with Ophanim, or in his case being faithful. In this, it's just about eating and consuming, which is again cool. It's very animalistic. Let's look at the flavour, the deeper text, just a second. Details and mechanics. Stage 1, infection. So initially this god revolves around infecting rulers, then human populations with the Cordyceps fungus. Heroes who are infected will gain infection maturity until you completely destroy them, turn them into hives and drones. Your own agents start infected, so ready-made feedstock to serve your needs. So you can, if you wish, just turn your immediate agents into a hive or whatever. Don't know if that's a good play. Could be, but that is an option. Or a drone. So they start doing things. Sort of collecting that fungus. I prefer to spread it more first, but it's horses for courses, right? It's up to you how you play. I'm not going to tell you what to do. Stage 2, harvesting. So once you've started spreading this disease, as it were, the drones will automatically carry it back to the hives and create this modifier called larval masses. And it's a percentage, and the higher it is, the better. You can then use that larval mass modifier to do things with, right? So you can make more drones, expand it further. You can mess up other locations. You could create like little creatures, spidery type creatures that attack heroes that wander too close. Or later you can create armies, which I think is the swarming. So yeah, this is how you break the seals. So that's, I forgot to mention that. So you don't break seals just by time. With Cordyceps, you have to create hives, you have to get more larval mass. That's how you break your seals, right? And then you can use them to make more drones, as I said, to expand the colony further. Drones can't enter cities defended by armies if the location is below 50% shadow, but infected rulers, I didn't realise this when I played, gutted, but infected rulers won't rebuild lost armies, so triggering wars to destroy the armies can leave them defenceless against the swarming insects, masses of the insects, right? So if you've infected the ruler, you could just pelt things at them and eventually you will overtake them because they won't rebuild their armies, which is an interesting thing, right? It's like they're kind of, they're becoming more like Cordyceps, they're getting taken over. And then finally, stage 3, swarming. Once sufficient larval mass has been accumulated, Vespidai swarms can be created, which are basically armies, which serve as armies and aggressively destroy human kingdoms to ultimately remove humanity entirely. So what I'm going to do now is cut to a few bits and pieces that I found interesting in the game. I'll cut to the late game and show you some things that I've got, and then I'll end it. I don't want this to go on forever. Right, gamers, so we've started a game here with Cordyceps, the fungal bug god here. We've got the supplicant. He's got a nice brown outfit on, very buggy, and he's at the elder tomb. I thought this would actually be a hive as it happens, but it's obviously not been changed. Now, the way that Cordyceps starts the game, you only have one supplicant trait is the first thing, right? So we'll just choose that now. I'll show you what it does, the scent of prey. So as you can see there, if this unit is in a location with infected populace, that's a modifier that locations can get. I believe they have to be civilized locations only. It will emit feeding pheromone into the surrounding area to call drones to come and harvest the victims, right? So that's how you effectively unlock your seals. It's how you don't get any score from this, by the way, but it's how you unlock seals and kind of grow in power, if you like. The not pheromones, the drones and the taking of the population to the hives is kind of the primary way that this god powers up, as it were, that he gains power. Now, I'm going to show you the powers that we have available, and I'm going to use one, but I wouldn't recommend you do this. I'll talk about why in a second. So the powers you have here, 0 cost apart from one of them. Start hive, you need to click on either a fully infected agent or hero, and you can spawn a hive there, okay? You can use motor function takeover, and what this is 1 cost. You'll press this on a location that's empty, okay? So we could do this at a location that's empty, like, for example, here, right? And what would happen, the reason I can't cast it, I think, is because there are no heroes with 100% infection, but if there were, I could select it here, cast it, and the heroes, or the nearest hero with 100% infection would slowly come over to here. Once they're there, you then go to this power and you'll do start hive, right? And that will then turn that hero into a hive, okay? It will increase world panic mind because it's killed them, so be aware of that, right? It is like a panicking thing to the world to see these hives burst out of people. Would you believe it? So do be aware that if you do this on a hero, it will increase world panic. You've then got infested drone. It's the same as start hive, except it will create a drone, right? So you could do this on a hero, an acolyte, or an agent. They've got to be 100% infected. They will turn into a drone, okay? It also does increase world panic, right? And drones are what collect the infected population. They're what gather them and bring them back to the hive, okay? Anthropod drone uses larval mass, which is what they collect. So when the drone goes out and collects population, it brings it back and it turns it into larval mass at the hive. You can use this to create more drones, right? So it can be beneficial to have a lot of drones because they can spread out further and collect and gather more resource, as it were. And then the final one is homing instinct. This is used if a drone is being idiotic. You could target it and tell it to come back home, right? So sometimes drones will wander off into places where there's nothing to collect and they'll stay there a while, or they'll keep looking there stupidly. Click on them with homing instinct, it brings them back to the hive, and then they can hopefully look somewhere else and actually find some resource, right? So like I said, what I'm going to do now is I'm going to create a hierophant rather. I wouldn't recommend turning any of your unique agents into hives unless they're about to be killed, if that makes sense. So if you're going to just create a hive, you probably want to do it with one of the standard agents, right? So I picked a hierophant here. We're going to give it a turn. He hasn't got any Cordyceps infection yet. Let's give it 1 turn. Pass it. See, now he's got his infection. Then we can use this power here, start hive on him. He'll turn into a hive along with his anthropodic drone. Okay, that anthropodic drone will go out and try and collect. Let's have a look here. Infected populace there, and it'll bring it back to the hive, okay? It should be encouraged to come and get it from here because of there's infected populace, and B, the supplicants there increasing the pheromone feeding. So this will actually encourage him to come here and to then retreat back home once he's gathered some. On gathering larval mass, that's how you actually increase your seals and break more seals, right? And get more powers, of course. So what you want to do is use that to progress through the game. However, right, and this is where the caveat comes in now. What I've just done there, creating a hive on turn 2, I don't think, and this is only me guessing, but I don't think it's the best play. It looks like you do get more recruitment points perhaps with Cordyceps, so you can afford to burn a few agents, but I think the best thing to do is to create a couple of agents and do the normal game, right? Start infiltrating, start trying to spread shadow, whatever you want to do, start doing it. But the key thing here is to interact with civilized locations. Why do you want to do that? Because every time you're interacting with them, there is a chance that the infection from your agents spreads to the rulers, or it can spread to other heroes, right? If I had a hero here, an agent, forgive me, here, he might pass his infection on to these heroes, right? Which is very useful because then they will go on and pass it to other people and so on and so forth. The more infected characters there are, the more infected population there will be, the more your swarm can collect. Ultimately, as your swarm collects a lot of infected populace from locations, the locations will die. right? Their populations will decrease so hard that they can't support themselves or cease to exist, and then you'll get victory points. Okay, so the way that this god wins is by reducing areas, locations to 0 population through feeding on them or through warfare, whatever you like, really. And then that's the main contributor towards victory in my experience. You can do other ways, you can do shadow, you can do magic, all that good stuff, but I think the most common way is to just reduce population so much that that's what increases your score through bringing them back to your hives. So anyway, that's just what we'll do is now we'll jump to a bit later in the game on a different map probably, but I'll show you the some of the mid-game plays, what I think about how this god should play, and then finally we'll come as always to the late game. I'll show you all the powers, and then we'll go through my sort of takeaways, if you like, of the god. Right, we'll see you in a second. Okay, we're back in Shadows of Forbidden Gods in the mid-game now with our Cordyceps fungal creepy bug god, and I just wanted to show this. I thought this was quite interesting. This is the infected populace map view, and as you can see now, we've got quite a few locations that are infected. Some of them are only a little bit, 2%, 6% luck, but a lot of them are 100, 42, 76, it's getting quite high. Now, I think the way that you're supposed to really do this is spread that infection as much as you can. You can see, look, this side of the map is pretty much uninfected. Now, that's not surprising because a lot of this side of the map is orcs, right? And it's also, it's land with nothing in. Which also is, of course, uninfected. But these cities here, in these two countries here, the Kingdom of Zhang and the Kingdom of Siquis, are both completely untouched as far as the infection goes. So there's two things you could do there. You could try and spread the infection over there by putting agents over there, or you could destroy them another way using, magic, using evil armies, using orcs. Even might be a good choice here, but. Something to consider there is how you spread yourself, and I think a few successful players using this god have actually done like a shadowy empire in one part of the map and then done the Cordyceps infection bit in another and had it really split. That's up to you to decide. I thought this would be quite interesting though, just to show how much of, that is quite a significant change from the start of the game, right? And then hopefully as we harvest all of this, we'll get we've already broken a few seals, but we'll get our final seals broken, and then we'll be able to get the last powers. I'll cover the last powers in the next bit of the video. We'll go through all of those and what I think of them. And hopefully that will give you a good overview in terms of playing this god and succeeding with this god. This god is quite military focused. I get the impression it actually destroy places where they fully feed, so we'll come on to that towards the end as well. Right, we'll see you in a second. Okay, so here we are. We're fully awake now. 3 out of 6 powers. See, maximum power is 6 there with old Cordyceps, and I've got a number of curious agents. I've got our standard supplicant, courtier, and we have the harvester. We also have these fellows who are what they call infected, just infected people, effectively. Late stage infection victims, I believe they're called. They're curious. They've got random stats, I believe, so be wary of this. They can be good or bad. Look, 3-3-3, 3-2, 3-2. Not too bad. I think they're fairly safe, but not amazing. But when they level up, from what I gather, they get this: the scent of prey. So if this unit is in location with infected populace, emit feeding pheromones surrounding area to call drones to come and harvest the victims. Alright, so I'm on turn basically 250, halfway through. The world panic has gone crazy because I'm just slaughtering heroes and turning them into hives, which is, I think, super cool. Or turning them into drones, which is this fellow. Which are these, right? Drone. They go out and gather things and munch things and then bring them back for us. The world victory isn't amazing at this stage, but I think it's going to rocket up fairly shortly. And some of the powers that you get really do help with it. So I'll come on to the powers, and you can see these drones are knocking about. They're going about, they're gathering people, they're bringing it back into the hives to pollinate is the wrong word, but you know what I mean, to feed it effectively. Here's a hive. It has hold on. Larval mass 41%, not too bad. And we've got this guy, it's probably, it's hunting the supplicant or whatever, mate. But heroes can come and actually destroy the larval mass, which is a pain. Love the art on these hives, by the way, look at that. Fantastic. The reason this one is red is because it's got an ability on it that isn't tagged here, which is a bit of a mistake. It should be a modifier, I think. But I did a pair on it that makes it basically spread problems, if we like, to the surrounding areas, but increases its menace, as you can see. So it will be potentially burnt and destroyed later on, whereas this one has no menace. So I think if we look at the powers, it'll give us a good idea about how this god plays, right? So you start off with all of these down to homing instinct, I want to say. So you can create a drone of different types. This one is to create one at a hive that's got a certain amount of larval mass, about 10%. So we click on that, that'll drop, and then we get another drone. Like here he is. Or you can create a infested drone, which is when you take over a person or a person that's infected, right? So that can be either one of your agents, or it could be a hero or an acolyte, as it says there, that's also been infected. I'm not sure exactly how people become infected. It seems to be just doing things in the same location as other people that are infected. So it's a bit of a snowball, right? Like you start off, all of your agents start fully infected, right? And I think that is likely to make other things more infected. So see, this guy's got 26% infection. There's rulers that get infected. That ruler's infected, look. 6% only, not high, but she's infected. And then they spread it to people. So, you know, the more rulers that are infected, the more they spread it to agents. Heroes. And then they spread it to more rulers, and then they spread it to more heroes. And it becomes a bit, like I say, a bit of a snowball effect. And it also then increases the infection of the rate of the infected populace, as you can see here. So these are getting infected from their baroness, right? It's creating more of them. And that what's happening then is my little drones are going out, collecting them, bringing them back to the hive, replenishing the larval mass. Okay? That's the general game plan here. So you start with Start Hive. It's another bit of an insect scuttle. Turn a hero or agent with a mature infection into a hive, letting you spawn drones and military units. Right, I wouldn't... It's tempting, yeah, to do this immediately as soon as you can. First off, a few caveats to this. You can only do it on a location with nothing, right? I can't do it. I could do it here. I could do it. But I couldn't do it here. I couldn't do it if there's already a city, a village, whatever, because they're taken. I can't do that. You can do it at ruins. You can do it at hills and such, and the coast and things like that. You can't do it on the water. It can only be in the inland. And as I say, the temptation is to just take your first agent, your supplicant, walk him over there and turn him into a hive. I don't think that's the best play because you want to spread the infection, right? So what I did is just classic infiltrate, in shadow, infiltrate, that's sort of good stuff. And it just really started, well, I've got a shadow here, as you can see, which is nice for the old victory percentage, but it really started spreading the infection. It just went crazy. So the infection has gone pretty high here, as you can see. And then they spread it a bit further afield, right? So I think there is a bit of it's one of those classics, don't use your powers until you're ready. But when you have a bit of the infected populace, you'll be too tempted, I suspect. You'll want to start a hive. So start a hive. You've got two options for that. You can either... So one of them is to do this motor function takeover. It's where you draw a hero to a location, right? So as you can see, but let's not go through it in full detail, but long story short, you click this. You click on an empty spot, and then the most... Princess Zhuan Jiang will travel there, right? Once the hero gets there, the nearest hero is fully infected. Once they get there, you can then use Start Hive and turn them. It's free, as you can see, but turn them into one. If it is a hero, bear in mind, obviously, I've raised World Panic, hence why mine's so high, because they've just killed, a flipping insect hive has burst out of a hero that went over to the wastes, you know what I mean, off by themselves, looking a bit morose. So yeah, it's fairly horrific. But anyway, you start a hive, either doing it from a hero or doing it from an agent. Okay. Once you've got a hive, and a hive spawns with a drone as well, by the way. Once you've got a hive, you can then spawn more drones, either way that we've discussed, and they will collect larvae that then starts getting you through your seals, all right? And allows you to do other things, such as make more drones, etc., etc. You've also got homing instinct, which is basically drones just randomly walk off sometimes. And let's say I had infected here, on this side, as it were. Where's my hive? Let's give you a real example of this. Here's my hive, right? Let's say I had infected every place except this citadel and this city, and everything sort of northwest of that, right? The drone might just go bzz, over to here, and he's just wasting his time. He's not going to do anything of use because none of this is infected. In my example, they are in the game, but imagine, so you can use that power to call them back. Homing instinct brings them back so they're not doing something stupid, and they can hopefully go somewhere sensible. Assign guard spawns a like a little guard minion for your drones and for other creatures that makes them stronger. Does what it says on the tin, makes them less likely to be attacked. You can disrupt the neurology, which reduces security. You can stack it, which is interesting, so it allows you to quicker infiltrate places and then spread the shadow further, which is, I think, a good thing. Hematophage is the creature that harasses heroes, which I think is so cool. So arachnids, this, to be honest, these should be... There's other ways to get these in the game, and I think it should be taken because it's such a cool mechanic. I don't see why it isn't. Why can't I make a place have such high danger it spawns one of these automatically? That makes sense, right? Surely. But anyway, I digress. So this spawns this insect, this spider that basically harasses heroes. They can be killed, but what they do is they go in, they attack, and then they go away, heal, go in, attack, go away, heal. So it just wastes heroes' time, which is the ideal. It doesn't raise world panic as well, ideally, okay? You can take away a hive, that's a laser power. You only use that if you've got two hives that are competing and you want the strength to be on one, right? Generally, you want them fairly spread out. I remove one actually that was too close to another. Vespidic Swarm, that's your first army spawn. So what it will do is that will remove all of the larval mass and turn it into an army of that strength, right? So this would be a 31 strength army, which isn't great. Yeah, but you can make other 67%. It's not great again, but, it's... a start, right? I probably wouldn't use this too much, and then you could target it to go and attack a certain nation, location. That's as much control as you have over them. The rest is up to them, right? And they did manage to take. To be fair, I did spawn one. It managed to kill both of these. These runes are because of those insects, which is quite good. Those Vespid swarms. Airborne spores is what I used on this. That's why it's red. Okay, and what it does, as it says here, is it. Causes all human settlements within 2 links distance to gain +1 infected population per turn. Causes the hive to gain +1 menace per turn. Okay, well, that kind of stinks. And any heroes and acolytes in the location get infected. That's the other use of it. I used it for one hero, but whatever. You can use it for as many as you like, right? If there's a massive bunch of them, could be a good thing to do. They've got to be at the hive, which is a potential problem, but They have the heroes later have reason to go there. You get this a bit too early, in my opinion, or maybe I just want my things a bit too quick. But synchronized infestation is awesome. So you target an acolyte or a hero with 100% infection. You can also target one of your own agents if you want. Any acolyte or hero that's fully infected will just turn right in one go. It's really cool, but it's difficult. It's one of those things you want to plan for, right? I find myself using this quite often, and I think it's more of a tool to use just to do it quickly rather than have to faff and find the person with the infection, as it were, in the late game, right? Because you get potentially there's 3 or 4 people that are fully infected, you just want to turn them all in one go, but it's cool. Paranoid hysteria is interesting, so it makes a hero or acolyte. I mean, it's funny, right, the name, because they're not paranoid at all. They really should have a major panic. There's a horrible bug fungus god trying to kill them, but anyway. Makes a hero acolyte with 100% infection maturity gain 10 menace and cause madness effect paranoid hysteria or hypochondria on the location, adds 1% to temporary world panic. So it's not a lot, but again it can stack up pretty high, right? And sometimes you don't want to push it too far. And you can just keep doing this. You can add menace, etc. until they obviously start fighting between each other. And then finally, internal maturation, 3 power, causes Vespidic swarms to explode out of infected victims. Creates a Vespidic swarm army in location with strength proportional to population and level of infection. Right? Removes population and defences. So, effectively creates an army. I can't showcase this just yet, but it will create an army at a location. So let's say this one, Quindom. Now look, it's got 100% infected populace, right? The population is only 31, but imagine if this was 300 or 200 or whatever. That's going to be a lot of infected army coming out of there. Population 64, 54%, that'd probably be a bit less because the thing is lower. Infected 78, population could be 116, but you see how this works? Right, you just burst out an army that immediately starts attacking their armies, weakening them. If the ruler's infected, they're not making their armies any stronger. Eventually you're going to destroy them, right? So it's funny, it does lean into a military conquest. Interestingly, one thing it doesn't do, or you might have to do just to kind of play well with it, is doesn't scale well with orcs, right? Because orcs end up taking some of that prime real estate that could be used for your hives, right? So with orcs, it might be, I didn't do this as you can see, but it might be recommended you take them over just to curb them, so they're not taking these areas you don't want them to take. or you have them, you know, take over a certain part of the map. You focus your swarms in another part of the map, and you end up kind of pincering to ruin humanity. Either way, I think the focus here is military rather than sneaky. You know, you're not got any. You could win by shadow in the standard ways, I suppose, but the focus is different on this. You really are destroying humanity, eating them, consuming them, killing them, right? So it's a slightly different focus. It's very, very, very fun to play. It's very, very different. There's a bit of automation in here as well, because you've got the drones that do their own thing. They're not always as intelligent as a player, so that has to be managed. But yeah, it's very, very fun. Give it a go. Very enjoyable. No doubt it'll improve as time goes on and get you know, better balance and so on. But yeah, really, really fun god, guys. Anyway, that's probably too long already. So I think I'm going to close the video there, guys. Thank you, as always, for watching. If you like what you see, you know, hit the like button. If you want to see more, subscribe, all that good stuff. Thank you, as always, to my blessing, fed and canned, my member, such a darling, my gamer there who's holding the fort. He said thank you very much. If you'd like to be a member, there'll be a thing popping up. There's been a request to do a video on the flesh god, a Scramrak, that is a mod god. I will be getting around to that at some point. I'm going to cover one last bit of the base game, as it were. I'm going to cover the new events in the ruins in a bit more detail, and then once we've got that, I will once I've done that video rather, I will then focus on Scamrak, the mod god. He's very good, very, very fun to play, so look forward to that one as well, guys. Bit of a body horror thing, like really yeah, super creepy, some excellent work. I want to say, yeah, it's Uravolve again. He just can't stop making these awesome gods, so bless him. But yes, thank you ever so much for watching, guys, and I'll catch you in the next video. Thank you.